All right, welcome back. Part two, it's gonna be a little bit shorter. We're not gonna go 3 hours like we did the first time. In our first episode, excuse me. There's a lot to unpack there. The way we're gonna start moving forward with some of this is we're gonna have a discussion on where it comes from, where the roots are, and then kind of what we're dealing with today and how we can be involved. So, our youth and our kids, is a big subject of conversation, and our school boards, right? This is important for conservatives, or really anyone with strong values or principles, and why they should be involved in it. And you should be involved in them for a lot of different reasons, especially if you're concerned about the direction of public education and want to try to influence it in any kind of way. But y'all, we have to get involved because we want to protect parents' rights, and then we want to make sure that the control stays local. We want to prioritize parents' rights in education because I believe that parents know best, not the state, and they shouldn't be the primary decision makers in our children's upbringing. Period. Getting involved in school boards allows you to ensure that the curriculum is reflective of the values of our community, and it allows you to push back against top-down mandates per se. So things going in the libraries, and like I just said, the curriculums that are uh, being brought to the states from these federal bureaucracies. So it also keeps decision making at a local, more accountable level because they see that you're involved, and it allows them to be more accountable to families and not just special interest groups or unions. Kind of a lot of the discussion that you're seeing right now in Mississippi with the school choice issues. So, along with the curriculum oversight, conservatives should be concerned about this because um, it is ideologically driven content in classrooms that is hurting kids right now. So they're seeing a lot of critical race theory, gender ideology, political activism disguised as education. Y'all, these things are dangerous, and they are being taught to kids on the daily. You just don't hear about it or see it because you're not there. But what is taught in subjects like history, health, and civics has to be of priority. Like I said a second ago, what books are in the libraries and whether controversial or age-appropriate material is being introduced to students. Not only that, but it ensures fiscal responsibility from the school boards. It holds the administrators accountable for how your money is being spent. It ensures that funds are going to core educational needs rather than just waste or political agendas. And it also shows that supporting school choice, charter schools, things like that, and alternative options are appropriate when necessary. Also, it ensures that school safety and discipline is of top priority because it is. We want to make sure that we have strong discipline policies, and we support our resource officers and the safety initiatives that are being practiced in our schools to protect our children. So we push for policies that'll protect students and without sacrificing an order of fairness, if you will. And it also counterbalances that activism. Like I said ago, this is one of the ones that you probably don't hear see much as much because it's become so good at just kind of going under the radar. But progressive activists have gained influence on our school boards. But it has, believe it or not, you will find progressive activists on your school board locally right now. Go look. Go pay attention to what's going on. You'll find it. And without conservative involvement, those decisions can be damaging. It can only reflect one side of a social or moral issue as opposed to trying to represent everybody or the right thing. It could also lead to policies that conflict with traditional or religious values and views. So again, if these people aren't, you know, holding these things to a standard and just kind of pushing their own agenda, it really stands a good chance at silencing voices, and that includes conservatives, teachers, and students. So it also sets an example to our kids to be involved, right? Democracy is participatory. It's not passive. Local action matters, and change often starts in your own backyard. That's why Stand the Gap is starting to do this, because we are not trying to have a big national footprint, or you know, we're not trying to change things on the national level. We're trying to change things right down the road. I told Andrew this today, that conservatives have to lead with principled, respectful governance, not just opposition, but we have to be assertive in this fight, right? And if we don't get involved, others will. They already have. They already are. They're not just administrative bodies. These school boards, they shape the moral and intellectual development of the next generation. So, if you believe in your values, you should be willing to step up and represent them in, I think, one of the most impactful places you can, and that's in your school boards, because that's where the masses of these kids and our youth are going, right? Um, and that's kind of where we'll sum it up there. Get involved in your local school board. A lot of Stand the Gap's going to do is we're going to be paying attention to our local school boards and what's going on there. We're also going to be paying attention to our local politics, right? So we have a lot of stuff coming up here in Rankin County and Mississippi, especially. We have a special election coming up for Supervisor District 2. So Mr. Scott Berry recently resigned. So there's going to be a special election coming up for that. In November, there will also be potentially new power dynamics that get shifted there, because when somebody retires in the middle of session, or in the middle, you tend to see some kind of a lot of changes and shifts, especially in the seats that are going to be taken up. We saw some zoning and mobile home ordinance uproars and reversals back in April, with the mobile homes on the Rankin County Board of Supervisors. It was a pretty big thing, but on in May they ended up rescinding that ordinance. Just because I guess they acknowledged that they had overlooked some details of the bill and what that meant for people, and how it was going to be really impeding on folks. So this illustrates that when people push back to these kinds of things, you will see these supervisors and these elected officials kind of like, oh, they're paying attention to us, we better go and change what we did, especially when that many people show up and make a strong case for something that they're not agreeing with. um this is actually pretty new. Desegregation orders for Rankin County School District. Apparently, Rankin County has been under a federal desegregation rule since like the 60s. And now it's kind of the district is petitioning to be released from that, claiming that it's hit some required milestones. However, the NAACP is saying that it still has some unresolved issues, and that it's underrepresented by Black teachers. There's not enough equity and discipline. Some of the equity and discipline, and some of these things have to be addressed before releasing that order. This is a politically sensitive issue, because being under judicial oversight can constrain a lot of that district autonomy, if you will. But lifting it too early could also lead to a regression, or something in the gains made for equality. So that's the last thing we want to see, and I know that's not the case. I believe that is not the issue, but I do believe that it's probably holding down some of the things that Rankin County School District could do. And I think if you look around, Mississippi, and especially in Rankin County, it is very well represented by a bunch of different ethnicities, and you know things like the NAACP, in my opinion, are one of those things that we talked about earlier that are there to try to keep us divided. Yeah. So we've seen some civil rights and policing oversight investigations. Americans ACLU has joined the push, filing public records requests for some of the transparency in the Rankin County Sheriff's Department. We've all heard of the Goon Squad, and we've all heard of some of the stuff that's going on over there. We've all heard of some of the allegations and some of the things that have come up out of that area. State auditors got involved, and we are seeing a lot of we're seeing some good people that are deciding to run for this. So I hope it's able to if there's things that aren't true, that are it's brought out, things are explained, and that that what's going to happen for that position in Rankin County is that we have someone there that is you know trusted by the community, and that people feel that it's not being used as its own to push its own political agenda or its own arm of you know control or suppression in any kind of way. um, we saw some redistricting issues that kind of had to do with some minority voting right concerns. There are some Democrats in Rankin County that allied legislators, and allied legislators submitted a federal complaint alleging that the new redistricting plan dilutes black voting strength. So they argue that growth in Rankin County justifies an additional House seat, and that given the size of the black population, a black majority district should be drawn. So, under the Voting Rights Act, district maps must be reviewed to ensure that they do not discriminate against any voters. So, basically, that's just saying that we want to make sure that the lines are equally drawn, that they're not redrawn to benefit one party or the other. There's some public safety infrastructure things going on around county with our siren alert systems, and some other routine board business things going on. Um, let's see. In May, we saw some citizens express the desire to remove one of our supervisors. I'm not going to say any names, but he had made some comments. Um, about the Goon Squad and about the people that they were going after. However, the legal bar for removal is high. For a supervisor, it requires 51% of registered voters in a supervisor's district uh, to get that to happen. So in Rankin County's District 4, that amount would have been over 10,000 signatures, more than the turnout of the previous election. So that wasn't going to happen. So what you see is you're going to see somebody running against them. That's a lengthy technical petition process itself, and it kind of acts as a barrier to prevent that from happening, right? From somebody to just get petitioned out by signature. So, likely things to watch for November 2025 special election. Like I said, this District 2 supervisor, we saw some candidate announcements. We saw the campaign issues and things that they're going to be kind of basing their platform on: the zoning, the policing, infrastructure, again, the desegregation and the unitary status decision with RCSD, the civil rights investigation outcomes over at Rankin County Sheriff's Department, and the auditor's investigation into that. Again, the annexation moves and city county tensions, dealing with the municipal jurisdictions and how the lines are drawn. And then, like I said, also the public infrastructure and the safety. It's super important. Um, the road and truck ordinances, we've seen that become a big thing. Making sure that people on our roadways speak English and can read our signs. So that's a big thing. And then another thing that we talked about, and we'll kind of wrap up on this real quick. Andrew talked about precinct delegates and precinct captains. So what are those, and what does that mean? It is um, a precinct in essence is the smallest defined voting area that is closest to you, right? It's where your neighborhood or your local polling block, for instance, the church you go and vote at. That's your precinct. So a precinct delegate, sometimes called a precinct captain, is a person that's either elected or selected by voters in that precinct, and that just kind of helps to be a link kind of between the party and organization and the voters in your precinct. So, what exactly do they do? A few different things. Voter registration, education. They make sure that voters in that area are registered. They know the issues. They know where and when to go vote. They help with get out the vote efforts. Excuse me. Coordinating with the party and campaigns to make sure that supporters in that precinct are able to show up to vote. This may, deal with phone, text messaging, canvassing, door knocking, literature drops, all that kind of stuff. They are also the liaison at conventions and between that and the party structure. So they should be attending, conventions as a delegate, be able to vote on party leadership, platform issues, and endorsements as well. But they also represent local concerns. They are meant to be that neighborhood voice in the party to help bring issues from the precinct to the party, from the voters to the party, and share the party agendas with the neighbors. So they will also, with that same thing, help with campaign support, coordinate with campaigns for candidates, especially the local ones in your precinct. Like I said, distributing that literature, identifying supporters, and even recruiting more volunteers. So precinct captain is really rallying the troops for the party for a specific candidate. So when it's time to vote, everybody knows what to do. Everybody knows where to go. There's no questions asked. And it builds a sense of trust too, because when you're out there knocking on doors and essentially endorsing a candidate, hundreds of times a day at every door, that's a big trust thing. People see that and they see that, oh, this person is not only doing that for them, but when they're a precinct delegate or a precinct captain, they're taking full responsibility to make sure that we all know what these things are, right? And how, what the issues are and who the candidates are, and that people are informed on what to vote for. Um, so, from a strategic, conservative, I think community oriented view, this is why these things matter and why the precincts, are so important in elections. Grassroots foundation, is really what they're built on, and this is right here is kind of what where Stand the Gap is kind of gonna like, excuse me, play a big part because we are grassroots driven. Uh, our elections, especially local ones, are often won at the precinct level. I know in my campaign, like I knew exactly, where to go, how many votes we wanted, what to do. We came up a little bit short, but it was, you know, I often say it's probably would have been easier to run a citywide campaign because anybody you can meet, you can just, ask to vote for you and give them your platform. But in a district race, you have to go and you have to find people in that district, and those people have to be registered, and then all their information has to be correct, and it can be a little bit of a pain. But the more effective that you are on that precinct level organizing, the turnout, the outreach, and the voter contracts, the better your chances are. Those delegates are the front line of that effort. So even strong candidates can lose uh, due to weak local turnout if we don't have good precinct delegates or captains in place to help with those elections. They help with the turnout leverage, voter turnout leverage. So, a lot of voters don't engage. Like people, you'll see them come out for the presidential race, but especially non-presidential years or local races, we should be seeing a bigger turnout and people coming out to vote. So, those delegates know who their precincts are. They know who their voters are, who they identify with likely supporters, and are able to mobilize them so they can make a difference in that election, especially whenever races are tight. But a weak precinct presence lets the opposition define the narrative by win or default, because if there's nothing there, you know, like I said earlier, the other side is already on it. They're already working on it. Um, Local voice and values representation. So for conservatives, wanting to influence policy from the bottom up, these delegates give you a seat at the table. You can bring local issues into the party's focus, which help ensure those values are not ignored, right? So when a area has a big concern, whether like let's just say it's a couple streets or an area or district, go to their captain or their delegate is that person that can go to the party or go to the officials and say, look, there's a really big issue over here on this side of the city that y'all may not be hearing about. And that's what your precinct captain is supposed to be doing, because in turn, that elected official or whoever they brought that issue to should be doing something. And, that precinct captain should turn around and say, look, this is what they did. So we already know that they're working for us. And then in a year, when it's election time, they say, hey guys, remember Joe who helped fix this over here? Like, we got to get out and we got to go vote for him. Everybody's organized, everybody's mobilized. It keeps candidates in the pipeline. And these delegates often have access to, these county or district conventions where endorsements and other leaderships are decided, and other leadership is decided. So, having reliable people in these roles means that your preferred candidates are going to be able to push and help. Uh, like I said, values that are more aligned with the community. They have better support for those candidates, and like I said, your values are better represented in the party's platform. So, and they also have a lot of early influence and information. So they're often getting informations about candidates a lot sooner than we would just on social media because they know what's going on in the party. They know who's going to run. So they're able to start spreading that message. They're able to start spreading the platform before maybe they even announce or before, like I said, we hear about it because we're getting all our information from social media anyway. So yeah, and then we don't even know what's real or what's not. I know right now you actually have to dig to kind of see who's running for office and who isn't because there's so much is out there that you just don't know. Um, so instead of being reactive, our delegates also kind of keep that sustainable engagement. Precinct delegates help build ongoing organization between elections. So, for communities or value oriented groups trying to have a long term impact, uh, precinct level work matters. It just does. Um, if you think you're going to win a state election, let's just pretend. Let's just use a mayor for instance, not our mayor, but let's just use a mayor's race for instance. Um, Pearl with 6 districts, several precincts in those districts. But they should be focusing on the districts, and then each district should be focusing on the precincts to make sure that they're getting the vote out and they're getting the awareness out for that candidate. The more you dig into it, as opposed to just shooting out mailers and emails and commercials, which, there's nothing wrong with those. Those get the word out, but there's nothing like that personal touch. There's nothing like somebody that endorses you that that lives right down the road. Like Andrew said earlier, people may not know what's going on in the election or the campaign, but they know Chris down the road who's been knocking on doors and telling everybody about it. So you create that connection there, and that allows more credibility for those candidates. Um, so get involved, start building contact lists, get involved. Um, in door knocking, phone, texting, helping get out the vote operations. That's all the stuff that Stand the Gap's going to be doing. We encourage you whenever elections come around. Y'all, it is so cool when you see a bunch of volunteers and people that want to get involved in elections because it shows you that they're paying attention. They see something that they like. They see policies that candidates will fight for. They like, oh, like he's going to fight for those things. He's going to push for those things. Like we want to help push those people. Um, and it also helps communicate, like I said, communicate community issues, um, between people and between, candidates and the party and the people. So get involved. This all matters. And why does it matter for you? And why does it matter for conservatives? Well, if you care about issues like the school board or the education system, policing, public safety, property rights, fiscal responsibility, uh, precinct captains and precinct delegates hold a pretty powerful, are a key power lever, I would say, in that area. Having delegates and people that working for the party that share your values means candidates aligned with those values are more likely to win and get recommended and endorsed by the party and therefore have a successful campaign, which, you know, if you're going for a candidate that you like their platform, you like their issues, and you want them to win, well, we want to have strong support behind them because the last thing we want is for somebody to just walk in a position. last thing I'll end on, that's why I got involved. That's why I ran. Nobody was running against the gentleman that, well, we found out that the guy that was in our district was retiring. He was not going to seek reelection, and we'd heard about that. We were kind of keeping an eye on it. Wasn't really planning to run. We wanted to make sure that we had good quality, you know, candidates running. So that was me. I was one of the quality candidates. And we did, our alderman and Gotti's great guy. But I saw nobody was running against him. He was just kind of going to do it and take the seat, and that's just kind of what I'm against. People just walking into positions. So we gave him a little bit of a run for his money, and we just wanted people to know that there was two options, and that you know, it wasn't just going to be a giveaway per se, and that you can engage the system, you can get involved. It's not that hard. Finding donors and funding and being able to finance a campaign can be a little bit tricky, but that doesn't mean just go run for office just for the heck of it, right? Like you have to have a heart for that. That's something that God calls you to do. God definitely called us to do it. Um, we were not concerned with the